Hello and welcome to today's Partner Web Conference. This is Fast Track Dynamics 365 for Talent Tech Talk. Today's topic, Architecture Overview. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Senior Program Manager Nilima Gudavale. So without any further delay, Nilima, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jarius. Thank you all for joining the call, and we have a lot of content to get through, so I'm just straight away getting to the topic. So today we're going to talk about brief overview of talent. Like any other product, talent has its own architecture and a data layer and how do we provision and then extensions and then the integrations. So all of these topics, I'm going to briefly touch base on all of these topics. In the coming days, we will be scheduling the separate sessions for each of these topics, and please stay tuned for the announcements on each of these topics, yes. So this is the very famous slide. Probably most of you might have seen this slide, and it talks about our digital transformation story. So as you all know, that digital transformation is not only simply a technology, but it requires process and people as well. So Dynamics 365 suite of products offer a complete digital transformation of all of the business process by providing a better integration story. And of course, the talent is one of those. So let's just talk about a little bit about what we are offering through talent. What is our three vision and mission rules? So we offer collaborative experience and pervasive intelligence and an expansive platform. So if I need to talk about the couple of examples, what is meant by collaborative experience? So this typically goes with one Microsoft story. So if you're using a talent, it's not only a talent, but it's combined with the power of Microsoft solutions like LinkedIn, Skype, and Office 365. And if you see that the product has inbuilt intelligence, the best example is, let's say, we have a lot of algorithms that runs behind the product, and then which helps you to make a smarter decisions. As one of that is, like, for example, when you create a job and then when you try to source of candidates for the job or try to understand that who are the right fit candidates for the job, the system automatically gives you recommendations who are the best fit candidates for the job based on certain criteria defined in the job, and matching with the skills and experience of the candidate. And the third one is expansive platform. So any product that you buy probably doesn't meet most of your requirements, all of your requirements. Maybe it meets 60% of requirements or 80% of the requirements or 90% of the requirements, just as an example. But how do you expand this product to make it work for the customized business process you have? So we do provide that expansive platform because we combine this product, as we said initially, with the Microsoft technologies, other Microsoft technologies, which enables to provide expansive platform and extendable platform. So let's talk a little bit more about how we are different. So basically, if you say talent product, the definition of the talent and what it covers. So we're going to see that. And what are the differentiators that this product offers? Most of you are aware that the talent means like it's just a candidate experience and as well as the worker experience. So how is it different from the rest of the products? What are our differentiators? So one of the important differentiator that we need to talk about is the intuitive experience. So if you start using a particular feature, it's so intuitive that you don't need any training or the change management, much of the change management process to be incorporated, because the flow of the process or the flow of the feature is easy to understand. And then we talked about the flexible and extensible platform, and because of the one Microsoft story and the integration with the other products, which offers the extendable platform to this product. And then we also have an intelligence and insights inbuilt into it, which makes us smarter decisions in terms of managing the worker and as well as a candidate. So those are the primary differentiators we have in terms of what we offer. So let's little bit deep dive into the architecture and what exactly, how the talent is built and what is actually the data layer. This particular slide gives you an overview of how the talent is built and what data layer it is supported with. So when we say talent, I wanted to draw your attention to the the left side of the box here, the modular talent apps, and then there's a HR core application module. So the definition of the talent that we say is starting from the candidate experience to worker experience. So the candidate experience is managed through the modular talent apps, we have two apps, that is like one is attract and the other one is onboard, and the entire HR core, the worker experience, is managed in the HR core part. So if you see this modular talent apps, which is like attract and onboard, linked to a data layer called common data services for apps, which is nothing but the other term of common data services for apps is CDS 2.0, and HR core is also integrated with the common data services for apps. So whatever the data that I create, change, or modify, the CRUD operations that you perform in the modular talent apps get stored directly into the common data services. And for HR core, if you see here, there's a little bit intermediate data layer, but as a partner or customer, when you're working with HR core, it is shielded. So ultimately the data is a real-time sync back into the common data services. So how this integration story works here, let's just take one example and quickly see it. Basically, let's say that a particular candidate, a job is created and a candidate applied for a job, and then he has gone through all the necessary steps that are required for a job such that that organization has decided that he's the right fit candidate. Like, for example, the steps I meant, maybe an interview process or the assessment or the test taking and all of that. So after all the steps, after all of this interview process, we have decided a particular candidate is a good fit for a job. So then we offered him a job. Now, the attract module that is out there as one of the experience app helps you to post the job, find the right candidates, and then select the candidates by passing him through the different steps, and then finally making him an offer. And then an onboard module, which is there in one of the modular apps, help you to set up a candidate with the pre-onboarding steps, like, for example, like a task, like, what trainings he has to attend before joining the organization, or where he should come and where exactly his onboarding or the new employee training is going to happen. That information is going to help. So now, let's say the candidate is offered a job and he's ready to join. The recruiter staff who are here and working with the modular app are done with their job. They offered a candidate and candidate accepted off. But hiring team, like, for example, who is here in the HR core application module, how does they understand that a particular candidate is there and he is offered and he needs to be hired? That means like the data, that means the candidate information needs to show up in HR core here so that I understand that this particular candidate need to be hired on so-and-so date. That means whenever a candidate is offered a job, the status flows back to candidates, common data service apps, and then HR core will pull that information and present it back to the dashboard so that the hiring team who is here hire that particular candidate. So that means if you see the information exchange here, the candidate status changes flowing to CDS, and then HR core can read that information and present it back to HR core so that hiring team understands that they have to perform hiring action is happening through common data services for apps, which is a common platform for both these apps together. So in the coming slides, we will discuss a little bit more about what CDS does for us and what we can do with the CDS, and because there are a lot of other capabilities that common data services for apps provide. So I'm just summarizing what we have discussed here. So we have Attract as an app which helps you for the complete hiring process, and then we have an Onboard as an app which prepares a new hires to hit the ground running, and then we also have a LinkedIn integration, which is one of the differentiating feature we have, which helps you to source the candidates for a job that's posted out there. And then we also have the Talent Insights, which kind of helps you to draw reports, and then we also have as part of an expandable platform, you can create your own reports and can use of those reports if the standard reports are not sufficient for the any of the purposes that you have. And then we have the Core HR, which helps you to streamline HR processes. That means nothing but the worker experience. So basically, if you say the talent, the definition of the talent or the modules of the talent comprises of attract, onboard, and HR core, supported by so many features which offers intelligence to product and easy experience, that intuitive user experience, supported by reporting, and then as well as we also have expandable platform. So let's talk a little bit more about this expandable platform. What is it all about? So now we understand that we have the data layer called CDS, and we are also saying that this talent has an expandable platform. So the data is there in the CDS for apps. That's great, but it is not enough, right? With the access, this data being there in the CDS is offering so much. So you can build your own UI using this expandable platform, and that UI can be supported with the logic or a workflow. And then you can also have your own report, and you can also integrate this data with the other systems. So these are all the capabilities of this expandable platform. The data is there in the CDS, supported by your own UI, if at all, if you wanted to extend the UI with the logic, and then you can build your own reporting, and then you can also integrate with any other system. And when you are creating a UI using a Power Apps, and I'm introducing a new term called Power App, which is one of our Power App is the extension story that we have. Let's say created UI with the Power App, you can also integrate that Power App or connect that Power App with any of our Office 365, Dynamics 365, or the standalone apps, or you can use standalone app in its own. So this is primarily the fundamental capabilities of this extendable platform, which we also call it as surround strategy. So as it when you build all of this together, let's say you built your own UI and have created a couple of functions or a logic, simple logic to support that UI, or you created a report. As and when you build these together, you can package them and provide them as a cloud-safe extensions in the app source. The one example that I can think of at this point of time to help better understanding of this whole process is, let's say I wanted to create an application which is like a shout-out application, like in the sense like any employee in an organization, if he wanted to say thank you or a kind of appreciation to his colleague. So there's a simple app I wanted to build. So that app I create using a Power App, the simple UI where an employee can come and select the employees of the same org unit or organization or the department. And then the moment I say select a particular colleague, and I'll say thank you note, and that thank you note will be sent to his email. At the same time, it also gets displayed into his ESS. So that means here what I have done is I built a UI and I kind of integrated with my graph API so that I can bring all the organization structure so that I can search and find an employee whom I wanted to send a thank you note. Then I also integrated with this app with the Office 365 or the Outlook to send a notification. And then I kind of created the complete app so that it can be used in the talent product as an extensible UI. That way. So that's the one example that I can think of here if we need to talk about the capabilities of Microsoft Power Platform, or we also call it as surround strategy. So let's quickly move on and see here a little bit more about common data service for apps. So we know that for now we have the data and we have Power Platform using which we can just model the data or process the data by creating a UI or reporting or any of the logic that we need. Now with the data that we have the entities, and like the entities store data. I mean, it's an entity is a data unit that is there in the CDS for app. Like the one example that I can talk about here is worker is an entity, candidate is an entity, worker personal details is an entity, skills is an entity. So, but if I have to ask a question that can I create a new entity The answer is yes. Let's say if any organization has a requirement to store the history data, but they don't want to upload this entire history data into the talent application, but they may be occasionally needed to support their some of the requirements, reporting requirements, then you can create a custom entity and store that entire data. Or let's say you wanted to use an existing worker entity, but you wanted to add an additional field called a mentor. Like there is a hiring manager, there is a supervisor, and there is a mentor. So you wanted to add that extra field called mentor for a worker record. So which is probably not there in the product. Let's say if you wanted to do that, so you can just simply create extra field in the entity level and can start storing the data. So that means you can create a new entities, you can extend the existing entities, and you can also create a business rules and validations, and you can define your own security model within the CDS. Not only that, one of the important principle here is CDS can offer the Pro Developer SDK, which allows you to integrate with the many other external applications. Not only that, you can develop your own functions and plug in, and you can integrate with the existing product. We will be seeing that part as well. So let's move on and quickly talk about the story that we have, the Power Platform story or the surround strategy story in a little bit detailed way. So if you see that there are so many connectors that popping up here, I wanted to draw your attention to this connectors and gateways. So here, if you see that we have Dynamics 365, Office 365, and we have Flow, Power Apps, and Power BI. We know that these are the part of the Power Platform. And then we have the Common Data Service, which we just now discussed. So now with the CDS SDK exposed, we also know that we can extend the code and with the product extensibility tools, and then we create our own plugins and functions. So let's also see that what is this particular box is all about, the connectors and gateways. There are so many standard connectors available right now for you to integrate with applications. And for example, we have, I just wanted to take a quick example here. We have an SAP connector and Workday connector right now in preview mode available. So how is that it's going to help? Think about this as an example. Let's say you have a system and where you have the master data, employee master data already available, and then you wanted to come, you wanted to use that system still, but you wanted to use a recruitment module or an onboarding module, or for that matter, you wanted to use a leave and absence module of HR core. So the way you can do that, you don't have to replace your entire HR core system. So you bring your HR core and connect it to your using the connectors and gateways, and then bring your data to CDS. So the moment the data is pushed to CDS, then it's made available to the rest of the world, Dynamics 365 world, so that you can process the data, use the data, or model the data. So that's the story that we are talking about. So it's not only an extendable platform in terms of UI, code, and reporting. It is also an extendable platform in terms of how you connect to the external applications like any other ERP products. So the underlying principle here is that the data is the common data storage, and this storage will be accessed by either Dynamics 365 ERP or with the external ERP once it brings the data through our connectors and gateways. And that's the story we would like to talk about here. So let's just quickly move on to what else we can do with this Power Platform. So with the talent apps feeding into the common data service, which is like we are all clear about it now. So what else we should be doing with this Power Platform story? So if you see here, little bit about this, like the cloud services and on-premise data. That means like we can connect either the cloud ERP system or an on-premise data in a real-time sync. Don't forget that the connectors and gateways stuff, and then we can just bring this data and sync it real time with the common data model that we have, because we have the entity model defined. And then not only that, there are a number of functionalities that it can offer. We can define our own security model. That way you can integrate with the complex external system but still have the control of the data, because you are controlling your CRUD operations on the entities that is out there in the CDS. And then with the data API and pro development tools, you can create our own functions and plugins. Not only that, we can create our own connectors just in case that if an existing connector doesn't support that connectivity. And it also offers, this entire platform offers the backup and restore of the data as well. So, and then, so that means, like, in a nutshell, what we have seen is, like, we have a pretty extendable platform with the UI and logic inbuilt, and then we are integrating with the both on-premise and cloud services almost in a real-time sync, and we can extend the existing setup using the pro development tools and still be able to control the data access using the security model that we wanted to define. So in a nutshell, what we are doing here is, with all the set of functionalities, we are setting a unique data governance that our customers need to manage in the way they want. So because the data, integral part of the data governance is how we are syncing the data, whether we have capabilities for the restore or backup, and can we define our own security model, and can I integrate this data with any other system? So the answer to all of these questions is yes, because of this common platform. And these are the capabilities that we are offering, and that is the reason why the statement of unique data governance holds true with this platform. So let me just move on to the common data model. And this is a picture which represents the set of entities we have, because we have different applications in Dynamics 365, like core and talent, and then sales, service, and CRM, and all of that. So the clear indication of this slide is a clear indication of what all you can normally do with a simple database is possible here, because these are the business entities which has a metadata, and you can establish relationships and you can control the CRUD operations. So I would probably want to quickly summarize a little bit what we have discussed. We all know that now we have an onboard and attract as an experience ops, and we have an HR core, and then we have an expandable platform which is called as like Microsoft Power Platform, and that we can just connect to the external systems, and you have seen the pro development tools, and we have a CDS which has a CDS SDK. Now when it comes to the point of that, we have a talent now, and how do we provision the talent, and how are we going to create the CDS environment? So the first step in provisioning the talent is creating a CDS 2.0 environment, which is otherwise also called as the CDS for apps. So we create an environment by logging into the admin portal, and then currently the creating an environment at database is taking not more than 10 to 15 minutes. So once we have environment created, so the next step is we need to link this to a project. So the project you are going to create by logging into your LCS and create a new talent project. And then once you create a project, then once you say that map your environment, then automatically the CDS 2.0 environment that's created in the admin portal will pop up into your LCS, so that you link your project to CDS 2.0 environment. So that's a very simple provisioning we have right now, and it works very seamlessly. And it's very quick to get this started, and the whole process will not take more than 10 to 15 minutes. So the first step is creating a CDS 2.0 environment, then you create a project in LCS, and then you link this environment to the project, and then you're ready to start. So when we say provisioning, so what is exactly this provisioning means, and what all the packages that you see? CDS 2.0 environment, most of you probably whoever is familiar with XRM, you might have seen the concept of this managed solutions versus unmanaged solutions. The moment we provision the CDS 2.0 environment, so you will end up seeing the list of the managed solutions that I'm displaying here. So that's Talent App Anchor, XM Common. These three packages that you see, which is of the managed solution nature. So maybe I might want to little bit touch base with what is actually the managed solution here is. Managed solution is mostly a solution that normally any product or any ISV providers use, and which is like a default solution that is offered with the provisioning. Here you are seeing all these three are the managed solutions here. You cannot add or remove solution components in a managed solution. So that's one thing. Then you cannot export a managed solution. And even if you wanted to customize the solution, it it is under the governance of certain parameters already established for that solution. So that's pretty much about the managed solutions. Usually what happens is whenever you are creating a Power App or a Flow or any of your own app in this environment, after you create a CDS, most of the times we create it as an unmanaged solution. The reason being that unmanaged solution is easy to manage, and then you can just remove the components manually if you don't want that unmanaged solution, and then you can export or import unmanaged solution as so this is the differences, but we can talk about this a little bit in depth in the next coming sessions. But one thing that not to forget is when you are installing talent using and you are provisioning it through CTS for apps, the packages that gets created with the provisioning will be with the managed solution. So let's talk about a little bit more about the environment here. So I'm sorry, I'm just moving into the next slide because this particular environment administration, I just quickly wanted to touch base on. So when you provision a talent, normally one tenant, and then we will give you 2 production environments and 2 trial environments now. So basically with the license, that Unified Ops license, you get 2 production environments and 2 trial environments. But by default, the moment you provision the talent, you also see one Microsoft default environment. So one tenant with the 2 production and 2 trial environments, but a default environment automatically comes in with the provisioning. So if you need an additional environment, that needs to be purchased or made a request to the team. So we do have Power Apps, Flow, CDS, Talent, and Power BI. This entire story of this Talent product and its platform is part of this environment, and this will be deployed into an environment. So this is a little bit about the environment construct and what you see when you provision CDS for apps for talent. So in the next slides, I'm going to show, probably I'm just going to quickly demo you that how the admin portal looks like and where exactly you see entities and all of that. Let me just quickly take you through the admin portal. So the one that you are seeing here is the web.powerapps.com, and then it has this is a place where you see all of your entities, and there's a separate portal where you go and provision it. So here my environment is already provisioned, and the environment is talent prod, and now I see all of these entities here which is related to talent. And there is a place here called solutions, which can give you that all the solutions that are deployed here, the talent apps, HCM common, and the talent anchor. And there is also one solution called default solution. So we'll come to this default solution and understand what it does for us. But if you see that this environment, if you just quickly drop down this environment, I wanted to draw your attention to this one. So whenever you provision environment, the default solution, the default environment gets created automatically. Along with that, you are allowed to provision 2 production environments. And then you also have an option of creating your own apps here. All these are the apps that are created by me. And then the flows, there is so here is a place that you can see all the flows created within this environment. That means a particular environment has a solutions, which has the talent solutions, the managed solutions. Then it also has the data, it also has the Power Apps, and it also has the flow. So this is the total of this, what we have just discussed is nothing but the Power Platform story. So you can create your own app, your own flow, and then you can extend your entities here, and then you can add your new entities. So here is the place where you add a new entity, and then you can extend the entity if you want. And also, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we can just edit the data. Let's say, for example, we said that the data flow from HR core and the data also flow from Experience app. And then if you want, we can edit the data in the CDS, which will get updated back to the talent or the Experience apps. Let's see a little bit about that here. So I have this talent app, the dashboard, and then let me just quickly take you through the worker records here. Just opening this record, which is like a created for just for this demo, and then I have a couple of addresses listed here, and then I also have some family information and all of that, which is the dummy information, which is the mock data. So let's see and understand how can we just see data from CDS, and if at all if we can just wanted to edit the data, how we can do that. So let me just go to worker address. So it's very simple and easy that to edit the data. I'm going to say click open in Excel, which will open an Excel plugin here. This takes 2 minutes. And then just say enable editing, which has this the connector linked to the Excel, helps you to bring all of your lookup values when you wanted to edit the data. Like for example, we have new. If you wanted to create a new row, and then you have a publish. Let's say I wanted to create a new address here. Okay, so I go here, I say some address type. Takes a little bit time to bring all the lookup values here. So this, it's bringing all the lookup values here. I have home, shipping, business, another address. Let's say I'm just saying that I need a probably business address, and then okay, the status is active, and then I can just look up and select a particular worker record here, which is like probably let me see what I can select. So I'm selecting 1175, and then I'm writing an address as Seattle, and then US, and then you can just even look up and say that who actually is updating this data. Otherwise, also it by default updates based on the login credentials, and then hit publish. So the moment you say publish, what it does is it identifies, sorry, needs some kind of data. Okay. Just saying Milima, and then yeah. So the publish is successful. That means it has actually published the data. If you see hit the refresh here, it refreshes the whole row here. So this is a simple and easy edit process, the data here. So we can also check back after a couple of seconds that this data gets updated to 1175 record. So in the same way, as and when you change the data in the HR core system, let's say you updated the data in the HR core system, it would immediately update back. It's a real sync that it gets updated back to the CDS. So that means, let's say if I'm changing anything here in terms of address, let's say I just edit this one, the home address. Changing it as just adding new information. Say okay. So it gets updated back to CDS. So it's a seamless data flow and the real-time sync. I just wanted to show you the concept of admin portal and as well as how the data flow happens. So that's about the concept of how the data layer works and how the data editing happens, which is a simple and easy. And then let's talk a little bit about what we can do in as we move forward from now. We will be discussing a little bit more in-depth topics about the core HR and the experience apps, and then what we can do through extensibility and examples and the surround strategy and all of that. So core HR has all of the modules. We all know that compensation, benefits, organizational management, personal management, what it is all about. So we have pretty strong presence in leave and absence and employee self-service, manager self-service, and personal management, organization management, including the benefits as well. So these are the modules that are right now available in the core HR. Sorry, we already have seen the demo. And then from here onwards, as I said, that we are going to talk a little bit more about the extensibility and integration frameworks we have. So if you see here, how can we extend this product? And we discussed about it a little bit about that in the previous slides as a summary note, but we are going to deep dive into a little bit more into those topics. So we have UI extensions and we have an entity extension. So UI extension can be done in two ways. One is that either you can extend the worker entity by adding a field, or you can just add a Power App, complete Power App, a new UI to that product. So for now, for HR Core, we can edit the form and add a new field, but for Experience App, adding a field, that functionality is coming soon. And then for entity extensions, you can create a new entity in CDS 2.0, and then you can just use that entity in the Flow and Power App, and you can just bind that entity in a Power App, and then link a flow to it to manage your workflows and the data changes. And we're going to see the examples of those. So we talked about adding a field and adding a Power App. And this is very simple. Like all you have to do is you have to just click insert and add a field, and as well as add a Power App. So this is a HR Core screen that I'm just displaying here. So let's talk a little bit about the Power App embedding. So here, using our Power Platform, in the earlier slide also, I kind of explained how we can create a shout-out application in a very easy way. So what I have done is, let's assume the fact that I've created a simple Power App, and then I kind of linked Power App with my entity called some departments or org structure, the relevant entities required for displaying the worker information or my colleagues information, basic colleague information. And then now I searched for one of my colleagues because I wanted to send a thank you note. I searched for his name. I got his name, and all I'm doing is thank you for all the hard work. I'm just sending this note. Because this Power App is integrated with Microsoft Outlook and it can send notifications, and this is a functionality that I'm deriving with this extended UI. And now what I have done is I have embedded the Power App in the employee ESS portion as a menu item. So if you see that there are two tabs, my information, my team, and the third tab, you're seeing it as a shout out. The moment I click the shout out, I can just come here and then send my thank you note, which would eventually deliver it to my colleague and also send a notification to Outlook. That means I have done I kind of developed a UI, I added a logic, and I kind of integrated with one of my Office product, that is Outlook, and I have actually triggered a notifications. So that's the holistic story of the Power Platform and what we could derive out of it. And this is an example that I'm showing here. This is related to how HR Core, how we can embed a Power App. But when it comes to Experience App, the way we manage the extensibility scenarios is through activities in the job templates. Maybe I just talk a little bit about the job template here for just a quick 2 minutes time. So job template is nothing but the set of activities that you need to perform from the day that you publish the job. That means, like, let's say, for example, every job that you publish, it has to a candidate who is applying for a job. That means an apply phase, and candidate has to take an assessment. That means assessment phase, interview phase, feedback phase, and then so on and so forth. But these phases may not be same for every job. Maybe if it's an executive level job, you may not need this apply phase and then assessment phase because it's very securely managed, and you may only need some interview and feedback stage. But if it's a normal job, then you need all of the stages. That means you can customize the stages that are part of the job using this job template. As part of that customization, then we are also providing you the activities. These activities help you to extend in terms of what you wanted to achieve. It could be a Power App, or it could be a YouTube content, it could be a web content, it could be a forms. So Power App, we know that we can extend we can develop a new UI and embed using a Power App. And then if you wanted to present to a candidate about your company information in the form of a YouTube video, just add this activity here, and then you can just play the video. And then any websites that you wanted to link, that helps through that functionality can be achieved through web content, and there are forms. These forms helps to give a candidate an assessment. Let's say, for example, if you wanted to take an assessment from the candidate. So in a B2C model, that if you embed a form and then say that candidate can see it, the questionnaire goes and sits in the candidate portal so that he can take an assessment and submits back. So, and then EO FCC form is the legal compliant forms, and this is available as one of the activity in the job template. So, but coming back to the extensibility story that we have, so these are embedded as an activities in your job template. One of the best example that I can talk about, and many organizations use, is like, for example, before you offer a job to candidate, if you wanted recruiter to confirm that he has done all the relevant checks required as part of an audit and compliance process, and you can do it through Power App. Because the reason why we can do it through Power App is like these checks are very specific to that organization. That means like if I have 4 check boxes that are mandatory before I give it to offer, some other organization may just have 1 check box which says that, oh yeah, I have completed all my processes. But some other organization may have to say, yes, we conducted the assessment test, and he passed assessments. It's a very detailed steps. So it varies from an organization to organization, but whatever your organization wants, so that checks can be achieved by embedding a UI in a Power App. It's one of the examples that I wanted to say here, so just so that you all understand how we can leverage this extended functionality as an extensibility part. And then there are also other apps available with the Dynamics 365 which you can use and embed. HR Core right now provides an opportunity to use this apps from the app source so that you can embed and use it. And then very soon even the Experience also will have that functionality, but it's not there in that. So Experience HR Core, you can make use of the existing apps, and provided the license and legal terms applies to it. So, and then we talked about data extensions, and I'm just displaying the same thing here. You can just create a new entity, and then one of the important aspect that we need to talk through this slide is the Microsoft Flow. We have discussed about the Power App and what can be done through Power App, and the flows also I wanted to talk about a little bit here. So there are a lot of standard templates available in Microsoft Flow within the Power Platform. So all of these are templates. You can use any of the template and then customize it to suit to the needs of your organization. So in this particular flow, it is just creating a notifications. So one of the most talked about example in the recent times for talent, we can just achieve through that Microsoft Flow, which is nothing but, let's say if I wanted to read the assessment form and store it in an entity, you can just simply do it through Flow. So what you can do is, like, let's say when the form record is created in the form, you just get that record and store it, and then in an entity called custom entity. So there are so many like that. I'm just telling you guys an example here. Like that, there are a number of ways that you can use the flow. And you can also link the flow to a Power App, so that when a Power App is triggering an action, the flow gets triggered, and then it does the job for you, whether it's a workflow or it's a notification or it's some kind of a business process. Here it is working for you to get some kind of when the email arrived in the shared mailbox, it's just creating a record, and then based on certain conditions, it is triggering the underlying notifications actually. So just as an example, and these are all the standard templates available. We discussed about this. And when you use a standard template, it comes with the default connectors as well. So I wanted to a little bit talk about the integration patterns. From this slide onwards, the topic that we are going to discuss is what kind of patterns available in the talent. How are we integrating it? In a summary, if we have seen that we have discussed that talent is supported by CDS and it has an extendable platform. The extendable platform has an integral components of Power Apps, flows, and reports. We have seen Power App flows and reports as simple examples of this and what we can do as an extensibility. But now we're going to talk about the integration part as well. So basically, I'm trying to highlight the patterns we have here, and I wanted to draw your attention to number two. The number one we have discussed, we have connectors and gateways. There are standard connectors and gateways, and if that is not sufficient, if you wanted to connect to an external complex situation, you can create your own connector. Recently with the release, we have also announced the finance and operations integration. So the reason why you are seeing this bar from the common data service, by now you can just easily can identify, because we have entire talent data is in CDS. So that way, when the data is there in the CDS, now we are using this common data service to integrate it back to finance and operations, which is our first party system. So the way we are doing it is, you have the OOV template, which has a list of the entities mapping. There are now the jobs and departments and worker address, and the set of common entities available. We'll see that what entities available as part of the OOV template, and there is an out-of-box connector available, which helps you to integrate from the common data service to finance and operations. All you have to do is you use the template and create your own project, and then schedule the project, which helps you to execute it for you, and then pumps the data from common data service to finance and operations. And then we also have the Dayforce payroll integration, which works with the concept of DMF. So you send all of your worker master records to Dayforce payroll, which is required by Dayforce payroll, which will help using that information, the worker information, it process the payroll. The output of this payroll process is ZL, which will be out. The ZL is an output from this process, and which will be integrated back to finance and operations. That means the GL master record will be placed in the blob storage, and that way that you can use it for further processing. Then we have the standard DMF anyway, so to which you will be using from the talent, from HR course. These are the two separate integrations offered from HR Core, but not to forget the Dayforce integration, the framework behind the Dayforce payroll integration is DMF. And then one important point that I probably wanted to talk about this here is a little bit about this custom connectors as well. So we talked about that, and then the product extensibility offers by way of the CDS SDK and the Azure functions and plugins. You can just either extend the existing connector or create your own connector or create your own plugin and function. But one important aspect of it is, when you see that experience apps data layer CDS and HR core data layer is CDS. But for now, we have all of the entities that are part of the experience apps exist in the CDS, and for HR core, most of the entities exist, but we are working on 100% replication of HR core entities back into the CDS. So for now, we do have a finance and operations integration. We also have the Dayforce payroll integration, which is coming available standard, and as well as DMF. About in this slide that we call the first party integrations as like our own apps, which is nothing but the finance and operations, HR core to finance and operations. And then of course there's an MS Office integration. And then we also talked about HR core to attract and onboard. That means if there is any candidate status changes, you can see the candidate back into the attract and onboard, that it is ready for hire. That one example we talked about is related to this particular aspect of HR core to attract and onboard. So not to forget, all of those integrations, HR core to operations and HR core to attract and onboard, happens through CDS. So because our CDS is a common data platform which kind of stores the data from both the apps, so it's a common platform that is offering the first party integration. And then the talent to Dayforce integration is like we have seen, and the Dayforce to operation is because that we are saying this integration because that the GL output from the Dayforce will be stored in will be given to finance and operation system as part of the blob storage. So when we say that this integration here, sorry, I'm just going to the previous slide. I'm saying the common data service is offering the integration between the data layer here and to the finance operations. So how is this happening? So we talked about out-of-box template and out-of-box connector available. But there is, as part of the extensible platform, we also have a concept called data integrator. Data integrator is the framework that helps connecting CDS with the any of the first-party application we have. So there are a lot of capabilities Data Integrator offers, but in a summary, what can be done using Data Integrator is using an out-of-box template and out-of-box data mappings. Then you can create your own project. You can create new tasks within that template, or you can use the same as existing template, and you can schedule the job so that the data transformation happens from the CDS to finance and operations. In this example, it is finance and operations, but the Data Integrator works for with the most of our Dynamics 365 apps and for a out-of-box integration concept. So these are the entities available right now: worker, position, job, and departments. And then we also have the list of the entities that are available for the talent and payroll integration. And this is a brief picture of the template that we have today, CDS to FinOps integration. So all of these tasks are nothing but standard. Standard, I mean that these are available as tasks within the out-of-box template. And not to forget, you can add your own task if you need one more entity to be integrated or any of the custom entity to be integrated. So that's pretty much about the integration. And then we also have Azure Functions, which helps you to bind your CDS, which helps to bind the CDS data and then make changes to the existing functionality. One of the example we talked about here is, let's say, for example, if you wanted to change the leave accrual process, there is a leave accrual process, a pretty much robust leave application system we have. But if you wanted to change it because there's a very specific need that your organization has, so if you wanted to change that accrual process or tweak it a little bit, then this functions helps, because the way it works is, the Azure Functions will be triggered and registered from CDS. So it binds the data to CDS. So that way that you can just manipulate tweak the code a little bit, or tweak the functionality a little bit, and then make it work for your own needs. And then a simple overview of how the services works, but I wanted to draw your attention to the next slide, where the same is reflected in a very detailed manner. So this is one of the one of the approach we have in connecting to the external system. We call it as a integration play. So let's say, for example, you have 3 different apps here. One is an Attract app, and the other one is the talent onboarding and the core HR app. So please check this one particular thing here, which is like a familiar box we have right now for now. That's a CDS 2.0. So the CDS 2.0 we are using to connect to the external system, and we are using the Service Bus and Logic app. So you can also use an event grid. So this is one of the approaches that you can connect to the external system. Let's say, for example, you wanted to use your own connectivity tools. So, but this is not the only approach, and I just wanted to reflect one of the approach so that you understand what we talked about in the previous slides about the connectors and gateways. So this is one of the example of that. And then the last part of it is like we talked about the reporting, and some of the we have standard reports available in HR Core, and then as well as the experience apps. But let's say if you wanted to create your own report, probably it could be a report based out of the historical data, or it's a report which probably need it for your own auditing and compliance purposes. You can use Power BI, and you can also link this Power BI dashboard using Power Apps into HR Core. That way you don't have to come to CDS and check every time. So it is readily available in manager self-service or employee self-service. Depends on the reports that you wanted to give access to. So, and then we discussed about the security in one of the data governance slide that we have seen. So we did discuss that we can connect to the external systems, but still be able to control the data, because we can define our own security model. This is what the security model is all about. So CDS offers a specific role and authorization matrix, which you can just manage it based on the needs of your organization. But when the first user that signs to talent will be assigned a system admin and talent admin role. But by default, all the talent users get the talent user role. So you can check this SOD matrix, segregation of duties matrix, which is lying in the CDS, and then change the CRUD operations based on the needs of the organization. That way you can control access to data entities, although you are integrating the CDS with any of the external applications, which could be a third party or the first party applications. I also wanted to give some useful links here. I know that most of you might have questions about the licensing processes and where to check the release notes, etc. So these are the useful links that you can go through. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover for today's session. So in the coming days, we would be scheduling sessions for the detailed topics like extensibility, integrations, and all of that. So stay tuned for that announcements. And thank you so much for joining the call and helping us through. And thank you, the rest of the team, my colleagues, for help moderating this call. Janice, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Nilima. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a brief moment and bring your attention to a link that I posted in the Q&A panel. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference, have feedback on how we can provide you a better event, or you'd like to suggest topics for future web conferences, this is your chance to let us know. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. And that is going to conclude today's web conference. Attendees can access the web conference recording via the same registration link used to attend today's live broadcast. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter, Nilima, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us.